Let's go. I'm Larry O'Connor. I'm in for Matt and Mercy today. They are off somewhere saving the country for freedom and democracy. It's what they do every day. Tonight, we're going to preview tomorrow's amazing March for Life here in the nation's capital. But first, I got to say it's a melancholy day, January 20th. You know what that means. Yep. 1 year of the Biden presidency. America held hostage. Year one is in the books. American malaise under this incompetent commander-in-chief. We're not pleased about it. We're pleased we made it through a year, but how much worse can it get? Let's look back a little bit on how we got here and discuss where we can move forward and actually help save this country. With Congressman Andy Biggs, Republican from Arizona, joining us now. Congressman Biggs, great to talk with you as always, my friend.
Good to see you, Larry.
You know, yesterday the president gave a almost 2-hour-long, meandering, terrifying press conference when you weren't holding your breath and wondering if he was going to make it from the next syllable to the next. He was also saying some extraordinary things, but one thing really stuck out, and I wanted to start with this. Listen to this. Here's President Biden yesterday.
So I tell my Republican friends, here I come. This is going to be about what are you for? What are you for? And I lay out what we're for.
What do Republicans stand for? It's a rhetorical device. I know presidents like to say it all the time. All they want to do is oppose me, but they're not for anything. Well, Congressman, I happen to know that you could articulate the conservative message pretty well. Why don't you take this opportunity to tell all of us, what do Republicans stand for?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, we stand for freedom for the American people. Now, here's the way to think of it. We stand for freedom to make your own medical decisions without mandates. We stand for you to be able to go and get jobs without overwhelming inflation caused by federal spending. So we stand for bringing the spending back under control so we can bring inflation under control. We stand for getting government regulation out of the way so you can create jobs. The job creators can create jobs. How about standing for a secure border instead of having 2.3 million people enter your country illegally last year under Joe Biden? How about securing the border and making that safe for national security reasons as much as anything else? How about giving a parental choice in education instead of saying we're going to indoctrinate you with CRT, or we're going to indoctrinate your children with a view of American history that basically says we're racist and we're basically a scourge on earth instead of the light of freedom to the entire world? How about preventing the defunding of police and enforcing the law so we keep our streets safe? How about keeping our streets without feces like they have in San Francisco? How about just keeping them clean? We stand for also in election integrity. We want to restore election integrity. How about we stand for freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and stopping big tech censorship and control over our lives? How about an America First foreign policy? How about that type of thing where we say, you know what, we are for America first, we're for strength, we're going to have peace through strength, and when America is strong and projecting that strength around the world, we have a more peaceful world. And so you don't see North Korea shooting ICBMs over Japan and threatening the U.S. And you don't see Iran getting back into nuclear missile factories. And you don't see Russia on the border of the Ukraine. You don't have China saying we're going to take care of the Taiwan issue after the midterm. But now it looks like they may try to take Taiwan back before the midterm because this administration is so weak. There are so many things that we stand for that Americans stand for, Larry.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's great to hear a Republican stepping up and actually answering the question about what Republicans stand for. We haven't seen too many, sadly, in the last 24 hours since that press conference. But this is an election year, and it's time for Republicans to step up and actually articulate these things. Congressman Biggs, I want to listen, you'd mentioned the border, and I want to get to this. You're in a border state, and I want to get to this a little later in our conversation because it is a national scandal that this administration has completely abandoned any sense of security on our border. But one thing you just mentioned we really need to drill down on, and that is respecting and protecting election integrity in this country. Last night, a bipartisan group of senators. You notice everybody wants bipartisanship. You actually had both Republicans and Democrats standing together last night and pushing back on this unprecedented attempt to upend the meaning of the United States Senate, doing away with the filibuster, and then nationalizing elections in this country, taking the constitutional power and rights away from states to determine how elections are done. And thank God, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin and the 48 Republicans stood firm and kept that from happening. But the rhetoric behind this bill, you know it very well. You've been passionate about this, H.R. 1, the John Lewis bill, whatever they want to call it in the House. This was not about the right to vote and protecting the right to vote. Talk to me about the insidious nature of what Democrats came so close to doing here with regard to our election laws in this country.
Well, they want to nationalize and centralize all electoral laws into the federal government. And that always works well when we centralize everything into the federal government.
Oh, the federal government's so good at running everything. I mean,
absolutely.
Really, they'd run our elections like they run the DMV.
Yeah, trust me, I'm from the federal government. I'm here to help. But look, they wanted to say things like, you're going to have to mandate legalization of ballot harvesting. And look, ballot harvesting is a real problem. That's how you get a lot of voter fraud. They want to mandate that you cannot have voter ID. That's a problem. 80% of Americans, regardless of party, want voter ID. They wanted to basically have early balloting, mail-in ballots for everybody. And they want to prevent you from cleaning up voter rolls. So if you can't clean up voter rolls and you're sending out ballots to everybody, you're going to be like I get at my house, where my kids who've long moved from here, they're married, living in other states, I get their ballots, even though we've told the folks at the elections headquarters, they don't live here anymore.
Yeah.
So the reality is they wanted to centralize it for control and power, and then they would actually authenticate and legitimate theft of our elections.
Is it wrong to sort of shorthand all of that and say this entire attempt that, thank God, was thwarted last night, this entire attempt to nationalize the elections in our country, it was really just a way to make it easier for Democrats to cheat? Is it that simple?
I think it's that simple, Larry. I think Joe Biden kind of rambled around it yesterday in his speech that I was watching, and when he said, we first have to convince everybody to blah blah blah, get out and vote. He basically said that he thinks the 2022 will be an illegitimate election.
Yeah.
At the same time, saying 2022 was pristine and pure, and Donald Trump is telling a big lie by saying that he has questions about the election. So
this is a great point, because you're in Arizona. You're one of the states that he's complaining about. And he's saying right now, you're so right, 2022 is probably going to be illegitimate, but don't you dare say anything about 2020. Whenever we said anything about the 2020 election, we had very real things that happened. Not we're guessing and projecting into the future 11 months from now, Congressman Biggs. I mean, we pointed to very real things. Here he is trying to undermine the election that hasn't even happened yet.
No, that's exactly right. It's one of the things, as he was saying it, first of all, he was rambling all over the place. I think that's what he was saying. But the reality is, when I stood up on the floor of the House, I had 1,000 affidavits sitting there on the desk with me, and I submitted the congressional record. I pointed out the federal courts saying that our voter registration deadline was constitutional. And yet they went ahead and allowed 40,000 plus people to register to vote past that deadline. Yeah. I'm telling you, Larry, there's a lot of concrete things to raise your eyebrows about. But by golly, if you do it, you're telling the big lie.
Yeah. Well, a few more minutes left here. And like I said, I do want to get to the border. But real fast, one other thing that the president said last night during the rambling, as you've mentioned, was this about the Republican agenda in the House.
I did not anticipate that there'd be such a stalwart effort to make sure that the most important thing was that President Biden didn't get anything done. Think about this. What are Republicans for? What are they for? Name me one thing they're for.
Yeah, the idea here is, according to him, is all you care about is stopping the Biden agenda. Now, first of all, I think if Republicans run this year and say, hey, put us in and we'll stop the Biden agenda, That in and of itself is, in fact, a winning message. But there is a little bit more to this that you could tell voters right now. Should Republicans win the majority in the House, what can you actually accomplish? What kind of agenda can you put forth?
Well, I think the first one is when you're in the minority, like will be still, you have to stop bad policy where you can. So that's number one. Number two, though, you have to acknowledge what are our levers. Our levers are in the budget, Larry. So we control the budget. It originates in the House. We can remove funding for some of this stuff. We can put in passages in there that directs funding can only be used in certain ways. And if he attempts to use it to forward his Marxist agenda, then we can step in with the courts and stop it. Now, the other thing that we have is we have procedural authority that we can stop them on as well. And so we need to use our levers to advance it. And not the least of which, Larry, I'll just say is we have oversight. We get to investigate what he's done on the border and everything else.
Oh, and also in that oversight, you can actually have hearings asking the DOJ and the FBI, whose bright idea was to start investigating parents going to school board meetings as domestic terrorists. I promise we get to the border. I know it's a passionate subject for you in Arizona, Congressman Biggs. Please expose this scandal. It literally is a scandal that the national media does not pay attention to this. They're gumming across the border unabated right now, drug traffickers and God knows who. How bad is it right now in Arizona, and what can we do about it?
It's unbelievable. I was just down there right before Christmas, Larry. Just went on a casual Sunday with my wife. I stood in one location where I know folks come across, and literally 150 people came across. And Larry, they're coming across as casual as if they're going into a grocery store. They've got cell phones, every one of them. They're FaceTiming back to their countries. And when we were there was nobody from Mexico, but of those 150 or so, there were 6 different countries, including Bangladesh. And I got information from a Border Patrol agent this morning. He said, "What's going on?" He says, "Look, in Van Horn Station, which is in Texas, Van Horn Station, there were only 4 agents on duty yesterday. 3 of them were detached to a hospital with illegal aliens. So you had 1 Border Patrol agent covering not just the line, the line of the border, but all of the interior in the Van Horn Station." And so this is going on. Del Rio, 4,000 people last weekend were apprehended in one weekend. This is going on. It's 10,000 a day still. Larry,
I'm sorry, Congressman Biggs. I'm sorry, I can't believe any of this because I'm told that Kamala Harris, the vice president, is in charge of securing this issue. She's obviously a gifted politician. We're lucky to have her walk amongst us, and she says she's fixing the border crisis. She's in charge, so this can't be true. We got to call fake news here on America Uncanceled when you present things like this. Kamala Harris is going to fix it all, Congressman. We're good. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Well, Kathleen Kamala believes that she's going to go down to Honduras right now, and when she's down in,
I want to steal that, Kathleen Kamala.
Yeah, Kathleen Kamala. She's down in Honduras. She's going to come back and say it's climate change again.
That's right.
Her mission down in Honduras is to fix Honduras, make sure they've got more jobs. We need more jobs here. We have lots of jobs. Just fill the jobs. She's going to find ways to help them out and help their economy because she didn't want to fix the border.
Yeah.
Congressman
Andy Biggs, I could talk to you all night about this stuff, but they're yelling at me. It's time to go. See, so I'm sadly, we'll have to save it for the next time. But it's great to see you. We will see you at CPAC in Orlando?
I hope so. All
right. I hope we will see you. That is it with Representative Andy Biggs from Arizona. Coming up next, we've got a preview of tomorrow's incredible, inspirational, and possibly last March for Life, if things go well in the Supreme Court. Keep it here. It's CPAC Now, America Uncanceled.
Okay, we're here in Florida. What's happening February 24th through the 27th, 2022, Schlapp?
We're going to have a big nationwide CPAC once again in Orlando, Florida. Just like last year when they canceled us in the swamp, we decided we're going to make sure that no one cancels us, including Brandon. And there's TW Shannon. How are you, man?
I'm great. I'm TW. I am Matt and Mercedes' brother from another mother.
And you're from the wrong state, too, but that's okay.
It's all right. Everybody loves Florida.
Yeah, but you're going to be at CPAC, right?
Absolutely. The greater the freedom, the greater the wealth.
All right, so tell these people they got to go this next year.
You got to be at CPAC. February 24th is the date. You don't want to miss it. All conservatives from around the country will be there, and you need to be there too.
And go to conservative.org to register.
And follow us on social media. You might be offended sometimes, but you'll be okay.
Back here with America Uncanceled on CPAC Now. I'm Larry O'Connor. Matt and Mercy off there saving the union like they always are. So I'm filling in. Thanks for sticking with us. So again, by reintroduction, I'm the morning host on WMAL, the major talk radio station here in Washington, D.C., and senior columnist over at townhall.com. And sitting next to me is Brandy Swindell, founder and CEO of Staten International. And you're in town for the March for Life.
That's right.
Tomorrow, and it's going to be very, very cold. But you've been to these March. You've been to March for Life
Rain
before.
or shine,
yeah.
pro-lifers show up to the March for Life.
In fact, I've said this to people who are like, "Oh, it's going to be so cold." It's actually more fun when it's cold because the kids they go out of their way to keep themselves warm and robust.
Nothing's going to stop Pro-Life
joyful.
America from showing up in
is
D.C.
Joyful.
Yep.
So now I teased this segment by saying this could be the last March for Life. I mean, I don't want to be optimistic, but this isn't the Roe v. Wade is literally in the hands of the Supreme Court right now.
It is.
Am I being too optimistic?
No, you're not. I have to tell you, you can feel the energy within the pro-life movement, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it gives me chills right now being here in Washington, D.C. This could be the last March for Life we ever have where Roe v. Wade is the law of the land.
Right.
So this is absolutely incredible. And we know that we have a Supreme Court that has a makeup that we should feel very optimistic.
We've had a good makeup in the past too, but there was something.
You never know. You're
something
right.
about the arguments that took place this time that seemed so thoughtful and so insightful, and really drilling down on the major core of the issue, which, by the way, the issues you focused on at Staten International, because you see this as a human rights issue.
We do.
This is not a let's find a freedom of choice thing that doesn't exist in the Constitution. This is about the human rights of an individual, a defenseless individual.
That's right, a vulnerable human being.
Yeah.
And we see abortion as a violent act against a woman's body and against an innocent child's life. Mm-hmm. So this is a human rights issue, and it's the biggest human rights issue that faces America today and really the world globally. I mean, the numbers are absolutely outrageous on the amount of abortions that take place, the children that are killed and the women that are wounded. And so we do see with this court how they ruled on the Texas case. Mm-hmm. They upheld the ban at 6 weeks, which means it doesn't appear that they see a fundamental right to abortion in the Constitution. Yeah. So we should feel optimistic, cautiously optimistic. We never know.
That said, there's still going to be women in crisis. There
That's
are
right.
still going to be pregnancies in crisis. And by the way, without Roe v. Wade, that doesn't mean there's no abortion. Each state will be able to make these determinations, and God knows there will be, I shouldn't invoke God in this conversation, considering there will be states who will double down and solidify. In fact, California's Governor Gavin Newsom has even said he wants to be a sanctuary state for abortion.
To allow abortions.
Bring me all the abortions.
That's what you want to be known for?
Right.
Wow, Governor. Okay.
Well, and so given that, the work of Staten International and people who are involved in the pro-life movement is be just as vital. And I want you to talk a little bit. Right. You talk about wounded women here because they are the victims in this case of this entire evil agenda. Tell me about how you approach it at Staten International and what you've been able to do, because there's such a lie that pro-life conservatives, we don't care about women and we don't care about the baby once it's born. It doesn't matter. It's such a bald-faced lie.
It is a bald-faced lie.
You actually prove it in your life.
That's exactly
every day.
right. We live it every day. That's why I founded Staten International. We are a movement of life-affirming women's medical clinics that's set up right next door to Planned Parenthood.
I love that.
Right? So that women have true choice. And in fact, Planned Parenthood sued us for having one of our mobile medical clinics parked next to their clinic in a parking lot that we own property in so that we could park there. Right. So there went their choice argument out the window. I was like, so much for choice. Thankfully, the judge dismissed the lawsuit, and it was a huge victory because he saw right through it and understood that women deserve the right to have other options. And so thankfully I come from Idaho. That's where our headquarters is, even though we have clinics all around the nation and in the world, Ireland and Scotland and other places. But we have trigger laws in Idaho, which is kind of what you mentioned, that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, what's going to happen. And the pro-abortion movement says there's going to be mass chaos and women aren't going to have help and states aren't going to know what to do. We have numerous states that have trigger laws ready to go. And so
explain what a trigger law is.
A trigger law is that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, it goes back to the states, and the states have legislation in place.
All ready to go.
All ready to go. And so we have that model legislation that's really good. And then also there's clinics like Stanton Healthcare and a number of other pregnancy resource centers and life-affirming women's medical clinics that are ready to go to help women who are facing unexpected pregnancies, so they have the support, the care, and the resources that they need. So women aren't going to be, without resource and without support. And so that is a bold-faced lie, like you said, from the abortion lobby.
And it's hardly ever rebutted, sadly. And cable news is the worst place to have a debate about issues like this, because it doesn't actually represent the human. This is a human issue. This is not a political issue.
Right.
But I feel like. Go ahead.
Well, I would just want to share with you. I got it. Speaking of that, our clinic got a call a couple days ago. Again, gives me chills. I'm going to try not to tear up on camera too much. We got a call from a father who came in 12 years ago. He and his girlfriend at the time had an unexpected pregnancy. The mother of the babies was in a real tough situation. She had wanted to get an abortion. They came to our clinic and ended up choosing life for that child. And that little boy is 12 years old right now. And that little boy got on the phone, and we got to have a conversation with that baby. This isn't just an issue. This is human life. And we have a number of stories just like that. That is one of many that's just fresh in my mind because we got that call. And they're living in South Dakota. They came into the Stanton Healthcare Clinic in Idaho 12 years ago and just reached out of the blue to say, hey, we just wanted to give you an update on our son. He's 12 years old now. Isn't that incredible?
StantonInternational.org, by the way. StantonInternational.org is where you can get all the information and help the great work that Brandy is doing there. That makes me tear up as well.
Right?
And that's why we march.
That's why we march.
That's why
and that's why we don't give up.
Tomorrow.
And that's why we're not intimidated by the lies of the abortion lobby, because they can be aggressive and they can be intimidating. And I encourage men, women, children, people of all ages, all demographics, of all backgrounds. This touches people's hearts when you really stop and think about it, and you get away from all the false arguments. And I'm thankful for our pro-life men that are out there too, because we need everybody involved. Yeah.
After the last Supreme Court decision, I saw all of these so-called pro-choice men taking to social media, talking about how they support abortion and what the great thing about it was they exposed themselves for the selfish, irresponsible men that they are.
I always get a little creeped out with radically pro-abortion men. It's like, dude, what's your deal that you love abortion so much? It's a little creepy.
My favorite was the guy who was, so-called bragging. He says, in solidarity of women, I went and got a vasectomy. It's like, dude, you're sort of telling us exactly how you were treating women.
Exactly.
Here, go ahead and do what you want. Be irresponsible.
Which is our namesake, Elizabeth Cady Stanton. That's why we're named Stanton International, Stanton Healthcare. She said early on that if we dispose of our children as we see fit, and treat them as property, as we're treated as property as women, this was during the suffragette movement, right? Then we'll be reduced to objects. And that's exactly what's happened with abortion.
Yep.
Is that when women accept abortion, we're then treated as objects, and for many men, sexual objects.
By the way, not only did the sexual revolution take place during the advent of Roe v. Wade and advent of abortion, but something else happened, and that was women joining the workforce. And we had corporations who, instead of spending the money to have daycare facilities and provide services for women, I'm not against women being in the workplace, but corporations took advantage and exploited women. And we even heard Michael Bloomberg famously said to one of his employees when she got pregnant, well, just kill it. Because abortion served the corporate need of having women in the workplace and out of the home, and babies were seen as obstacles. And
that's right. And
listen, as conservatives, we are not pro big business. We are pro responsible free markets, and this has not been a free market situation because women have been exploited through this.
And the abortion movement and industry has created an anti-motherhood, anti-child family or movement position for the woman. So that means there is still, there's been studies done that, I mean, you look at big corporations that will still treat a woman who's pregnant as a less than her male counterpart.
Right.
I thought we were making progress.
Nope.
Are you kidding me? But because abortion on demand, the managers, the CEOs, the corporates will say, well, just abort your baby and then you can be a functioning
I mean, they can
profit.
never say that
They can't
necessarily,
say it, but we get the
message.
stories and we get the reports,
That's
and
the
so
message.
that's the big thing, that the pro-choice movement has created an abortion culture, not a motherhood, life-affirming culture.
God bless you for what you're doing. This last
Thank
year
you.
has been so challenging with the Biden administration and with the forces in the nation's capital, and we have to embrace every positive development. And again, maybe,
That's right.
just maybe, this is the most positive
right.
development in the conservative movement in
That's
the last
right.
5
Let's pray
decades.
it up. Yep.
Brandy Swindell, again, it's StantonInternational.org. That's where you get all the information on Brandy Swindell and the great stuff they're doing. And make sure you watch and support the March for Life tomorrow. Good luck tomorrow. Stay warm.
Yep. I'll try.
You
Thank
will.
you.
We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Schlapp with CPAC, and it's my privilege to tell you that we've got a very important project that we've just announced, the First Amendment Fund. It's a brand new fund that we've created through our criminal justice reform efforts to raise money to take care of you, Americans who are being canceled and desecrated out there around the country. We know it just happened in Virginia, where parents were called domestic terrorists by the Biden administration, where people who just want to express their political views are canceled left and right. Now we have this terrible specter of a vaccine mandate where you can lose your job or be prevented from going to a restaurant or go to school according to your vaccination status. These are all the things that are happening in this country that are making people realize that America is in a fight to defend the principles that have made her great. If you want to be involved in this important effort, please go to conservative.org, click the link for the First Amendment Fund. Please donate to this C3 to help these victims across the country, including those who are just involved in politics, to make sure they have the legal representation they need to be able to live their great American life.
Yeah, it's been 1 year of the Biden presidency, but we'll get through it. For God's sake, we got through 8 years of Obama, right? It's not going to be that. Well, it is going to be bad. But that's why we need to stick together and we need to win. And winning starts with solidifying around a conservative message that we can then take to our neighborhoods, to our school board meetings, to the sidelines of our kids' soccer games, and to our Facebook pages. And it all starts at CPAC next month in Orlando. What do you mean you don't have your tickets yet? For crying out loud, get them, and get them now, because it sold out last year. And I think it's pretty close to selling out now. I want to see you there. It's going to be lit, as the kids say. So get your tickets at CPAC. Go to conservative.org. That's easy to remember, but I'll say it again. Conservative.org. And follow all of us on social media. I'm at Larry O'Connor. And of course, follow at CPAC, at M. Schlapp, that's Matt, and Mercedes Schlapp. Well, you know who that is. And thank you to Matt and Mercedes for letting me fill in for them tonight on CPAC Now, America Uncanceled.